We are beginning a new series today titled Teach Us to Pray. And so we're going to be looking at Jesus' teachings on prayer in a number of different spaces, but primarily focused in Matthew 6. And so I'm going to read the teaching text for today, and then we'll get started. But this is Matthew 6, beginning in verse 5 all the way through verse 8. This is what Matthew writes about Jesus. He says, Jesus is saying, "And when you pray, do not be like the hypocrites, for they love to pray standing in the synagogues and on the street corners to be seen by others. Truly, I tell you, they have received their reward in full. But when you pray, go into your room, close the door, and pray to your Father who is unseen. Then your Father who sees what is done in secret will reward you. And when you pray, do not keep on babbling like the pagans, for they think they will be heard because of their many words. Do not be like them, for your Father knows what you need before you ask him." This is the word of the Lord. 10 years ago, I was a pastor, but I didn't know how to pray. I knew how to pray out loud, and I could do that because give me a microphone, I can talk to it. But I didn't genuinely know how to pray, and I did not love praying. I honestly think I wasn't supposed to think this way, but I was like, this doesn't really matter. God's going to do whatever he's going to do anyways. This is more from my formation, and honestly, I feel really formed, so I don't really want to do this anymore. And then 10 years ago, I met these people who loved prayer. Like they loved it, and they talked about it differently, and they prayed differently. And they really believed that it would shift and change things and that God would respond to it. And basically what they said to me was, people who pray, I have a slide for it, people who pray will experience more from God and with God than people who don't. That was like the gist of everything they taught. It was people who pray will experience more from God than people who don't. And then as I just spent time listening to them, spending time hearing their teachings on some of these things, one of the things that they said that, but prayer has to be learned. It has to be learned. And it can be learned, but it has to be learned. It is something that you learn. And they referenced Luke 11. And they said even the disciples around Jesus, like they see him do something. They see him praying in a certain place. And then when he finished praying, his disciples, one of them was like, "Hey, you got to teach us how to do that. Like, I don't know what you just did, but I need you to teach us how to pray." And so their response to this and their teaching to me was like, this is the only thing that the disciples, this is the only time they ever asked Jesus for anything about what to teach them. The disciples didn't ask Jesus how to teach me how to preach, teach me how to raise the dead. That would have been pretty cool. Teach me how to walk on water. Pretty strong. Teach me how to turn water to wine. That'd be helpful. Like they didn't ask for any of those things. They asked for one thing. We just want you to teach us. And he taught them so many things. But the thing that stood out to them was like, I need you to teach us to pray. And so for them, these people in my life, they were like, look, you'll experience more if you pray. And honestly, it's something that you have to learn. It takes learning. It takes being taught. But then it can be taught. It is something that you can learn. And so over the last 10 years, I have learned how to pray. And prayer now is the thing that if I get to preach on anything, I want to preach on praying. The fact that I get to do this for 10 weeks is just, I'm thrilled. This is so exciting. I'm going to download 10 years worth of information to you guys in 10 weeks. But I love it. I love prayer now. It's shaped my life. And what they said is true. Over the last 10 years of my life, I've experienced more from God and more with God than over the previous 29 years of my life. And so out of 39 years of my life, in the last 10, I've experienced more from God and more with God just because I've learned how to pray. Leonard Ravenhill says this about prayer. He says, the greatest undiscovered area in the resources of God is in the place of prayer. One might estimate the weight of the world, count the stars of heaven, measure the speed of lightning, and tell the time of the rising and setting of the sun. But you cannot estimate the power of prayer. Prayer is as vast as God because God is behind it. Prayer is as mighty as God because God has committed himself to answer it. And I love that, and that's been my experience. My experience has been the greatest undiscovered area of resources in the realm of God is in the place of prayer. You will learn more and experience more from him if you will learn how to pray, but it must be learned. It is something that you actually need to go to school about, not literally, but like figure. If you're seeking to learn a language, you're probably not like, I'll probably just figure it out if I just try to talk in Spanish. It's not gonna work. You need somebody to teach you. You need some kind of learning, some type of thing that you need to press into in order to learn it. And prayer is very, very similar. And the good news is Jesus actually does want to teach us to pray. When the disciples asked him, teach us to pray, he wasn't like, honestly, it's really personal, and it's honestly just for me and the Father. No, he answers it, and he gives them a framework to work from, and he teaches them how to do this thing. And so he wants to teach us how to pray. And so for the next couple of weeks, we're gonna look at the things that he teaches on prayer in hopes that we actually learn to do this thing, that we discover the undiscovered resources that are found in the place of prayer. And so today, from this passage, from Matthew 6, starting in verse 5, I just want to look at three things that Jesus wants us to know about prayer that in many ways just shape the vision of what prayer is. I think many times prayer is confusing, and how do we do it, and what's it supposed to sound like, and all these different things. And Jesus is trying to craft an environment that we understand to go, when you're pressing into prayer, you need to think of it like this. You need to process prayer like this, because if you miss this first bit, you're not gonna wanna do any of it, and you're gonna miss everything else. And so 3 things that we need to know about prayer from Jesus. The first is this. The first thing that we need to know is that God actually wants to meet with you in prayer. He actually wants to meet with you. It's not just a space where you're just trying to meditate like a Buddhist and you're just trying to willpower it. Like, God actually wants to meet you in the place of prayer. He says this in verse 6, when you pray, go into your room, close the door, and pray to your Father who is unseen. You can't see him there, but he is there. Then your Father who sees what is done in secret will reward you. And the commentator, which I'm gonna quote this bro a lot, okay? His name's Frederick Dale Bruner. Brilliant commentary in Matthew. If you wanna read it, please read it, but I'm gonna quote him a lot. But he explains what Jesus is saying in this passage. Jesus says, and your Father who is watching there in secret, he's watching that place in secret. You cannot see him. The Father has a special affinity for the secret place. As the present tense participle stresses, he is continuously watching there. The Father is continuously watching in the secret place, in that place behind the closed door. He is watching in that space. And so the idea that Jesus is giving is that God gives his attention, he gives his presence and attention to any place of intention. He gives his attention to the place of intention. I didn't mean to make it sound like that, but maybe you'll remember it. He gives his attention to the place of intention. Go to the next slide. There it is. He gives his attention to any place of intention. This is why Jesus is saying, go into your room and close the door. Go into your closet and close the door. The idea isn't like you literally have to go into a space and shut the door. It's just, he's trying to present the idea like if you were trying to have a real conversation with someone where you needed no interruption, what you would normally do is you would go to a space where it's quiet and you'd have that conversation. Or if you're like my wife and me, when our kid is doing something in one room and we need to have a private conversation, we go into a space and shut the door. Or he's in a space and we shut that door. It's just the idea that Jesus is trying to present is like, be intentional with him. When you're entering into a conversation with God, when you're doing that, you just need to know that like he actually responds to your intention to go, I'm moving into a state of like, I'm just moving into a place of where I just want to spend time with you. And any time that we choose to move into a space where we just want to spend time with him, Jesus is saying God is there in that moment. He is there in that space. He gives his attention to any place that we choose to be intentional to meet with him. And so that exact space, that exact time becomes the space where he actually is. And this is what James talks about in his epistle, where he says like, if you draw near to God, he will draw near to you. If you are intentional about like, I just want to meet with you, I want to talk with you, he is like right there in that space. He watches that place so that if anybody ever intentionally seeks to spend time with him, he is constantly watching there to meet with that person. And it can be anywhere. It doesn't have to be in a room or a closet behind closed doors. It can be anywhere. You can be intentional to meet with God in your car. You can do this on a walk. You can do this in a room or a closet. This space could just be a space where you have the time and the capacity just to close your eyes for a minute and go, I'm going to close my eyes and focus my attention on God. That can be a space of intention. Where you're just like, I'm just closing my eyes to focus on him. And Jesus is saying that space of intentional focus, he is meeting you in that space. It could be while you cut the grass, while you do the dishes, while you make dinner, while you read. If you're bird watching, I don't know who does that, but if you're bird watching, you can meet with God in that space. It can be taking a nap, like I'm just taking a nap to the glory of God. But I'm intentionally taking a nap to spend time with him, because I love when my son wants to take a nap and lay on my shoulder. I'm a father who loves his kid doing that. I'm not sitting there going like, why aren't you talking to me? I'm like, I love that kind of thing. And so in the same way, like I'm intentionally doing this space. You actually see this in the Old Testament. Samuel does this, but it could be taking a moment to put your hands over your eyes and just taking an intentional moment just to be quiet before him and want to talk to him. Susanna Wesley, who was the mother of like 19 kids, but the notable ones were John and Charles Wesley, the founders of the Methodist. While she was cooking or in her kitchen, she would take her cooking apron and put it over her head. And while the 19 kids are apparently doing whatever they're doing. And like that was her secret place. And it was like, this is my time with God. And it was this thing. And like, that's what she did. It was like, she's intentionally seeking God just in that particular space. Every now and then, if you're, hopefully it doesn't happen when we're at lunch, but every now and then, if I'm at lunch and the lunch meeting just isn't going well, just a hard meeting or something like that, whether it's family or church related or whatever, every now and then I'll excuse myself, I just gotta go to the restroom real fast, and I will excuse myself to go to the restroom. But really what I'm doing is I'm just trying to find an intentional space to ask for wisdom or to ask for help or to ask for the strength to love this person that I'm struggling not to hate. Like I have to go into a space. And Jesus is saying he meets me in that sushi bathroom. Like he is right there in that space, meeting me in that space. Because I'm intentionally now I have to be careful not to take too long, because then they're gonna think I got like issues or something. So I gotta be careful. But it is like, I will excuse myself just to be like, I love the idea that I can steal away. And when I'm choosing to steal away intentionally to go and talk with God, that he's like, I am desperate to meet you in that space. I will never leave you in that particular space. I will meet you right there. It can be as long or as short as you want it to be. But when you choose to intentionally spend time with me, I promise. And that's what Jesus is saying. He promises. That's where he runs to. He runs to meet you in that space. This is supposed to be for us and for them, what Jesus is saying. It's supposed to be a gift that you can meet him, that the temple, the place where you encounter God, is no longer this particular space, but it's any space of intention that you set aside for him. And so any space that we decide, any time that we want to spend in that space, that particular time and space becomes the space where God is actually meeting you. He really does want to do that. And so again, even if you're just taking a few seconds to I just want to focus my attention on you, wherever that is and whenever that is, he runs to that place. He is unseen and you will not see him there, but he runs to that space. And he is actually sitting there with you in that space. You are with him and he is with you. And it's the space of intention, and that's what Jesus is trying to get us to. Like, you need to believe when you step into this, when you intentionally seek to focus on him and to give him your attention, you need to know that God is there first. He's ready to meet you. He's excited for that meeting. So that's the first thing. And the second thing that Jesus teaches is that your prayers can be very short. Hopefully this is the favorite of anybody who thinks that prayers have to be long. Your prayers can be very, very short. He says this in verse 7, when you pray, do not keep on babbling like pagans, for they think they will be heard because of their many words. Do not be like them. Bruner again says this. He says, the pagan rule to get your prayer heard is much. The philosopher Seneca said, fatigue the gods with your requests. And the Roman poet Martial Valerius said, let each one wear himself out with his petitions. The pagan conviction taught that the gods are reluctant to hear prayers unless the prayers are long, and that only when the petitioner has proven oneself by spending time in confession, praise, or even quiet, do the divinities begin to listen. You have to prove how sincere you are first. And Jesus attacks the misconception that there must be much prayer before it works. This belief makes God into a grudging giver, and that conception of prayer in Jesus' teaching, that's unworthy of God. That is not what he's like. And so what Jesus is saying is, don't view God the way that other people do. Don't begin thinking that you have to work hard to get his attention. Don't think that you have to do the work on the front end to prove yourself worthy to get him to actually respond to you or to get him to actually hear you. That's not what he's like. You don't have to prove yourself. You don't have to show him your work. You don't have to show him your commitment. You don't have to do those things in order to get his attention. Jesus is saying you have his attention. Whether you feel like praying or not, you have his attention. You don't have to like muster some willpower, like I'm really feeling like praying right now, and then all of a sudden he turns his ear to you. Jesus is like, he is not like that. He is not a grudging giver. He is there, ready, and he is listening. And so this means for us that we have the freedom and the access to pray at any time. Whether you have 5 seconds or less than 5 seconds or 5 hours, like you can just pray for as long or as short as you want. And you automatically have his ear without ever having to like make sure, like, have I done something worthy enough for the God of the universe to hear me? It's like, you don't have to do any of that. And this is important for us because I think many times one of the reasons why people don't pray a lot is because they feel like they don't have enough time. Like, I just don't have enough time to pray. And I get the idea, but I think Jesus would say is like, sure you do. Just say help. He hears help. Just say, I'd like some wisdom. He hears that. Time isn't the important thing. It's not the factor. He doesn't need the length of your prayer from you in order to begin listening. You don't have to conjure him, motivate him, stir him to hear you by showing him that you have the grit to stay in there. Your prayers can be very, very short. And this should encourage us more than anything. The fact that they can be short, it should encourage us more and more and more to actually pray. Because we can do it in 1 second, in half a second, or whatever, or it can be an hour. It can take as long as you want. Bruner again says this, he says, it is a relief to know that the Father to whom prayer is addressed is not a reluctant listener. Few facts encourage prayer like release from the burden of having to pray much to get through. When people know that they don't have to pray much to get God's attention, they will surprisingly desire to pray more. And I think this is so true. You feel this. If every time you felt like I need to pray, and every time that came into your mind, I need to pray, what you thought was like, I got to get ready. I got to like make sure my posture is correct. I got to make sure my words are right. I got to make sure I know what I'm about to say. I got to make sure I'm going to say the right things. Like if every time we thought to do that, and it needed to be a certain length of time, and I needed to like, if that's what we had in prayer, we'd have a trouble in our day-to-day life, like trying to find space where we can actually do that. It would just genuinely be harder to go like, I got to work this in. I got to schedule this in to make sure that I have time to do that because I got to be ready. I got to make myself ready. So for example, I have this friend who I love, and hopefully he doesn't listen to our podcast because this is a bad story. But every time he calls me, his name shows up on my phone. I know this is going to be an hour or longer conversation. We do not talk for shorter than an hour. Like this is what it is. Because of that, I don't answer the phone really at all unless I know I have a full hour to give myself to this. Because I think he'd just rather me quit my job and just give him all the time in the world. I'm like, dude, I cannot talk this long. And so because I know I have to prepare an hour for this, we don't talk that much. Because I know the length of time that I actually have to spend doing this thing has to be longer than I actually have to give. But if I knew that it was like, he calls, I answer, and if I said like, hey man, I only got like 10 seconds, what's up, you good? All right, love you too, bro, bye, and I can hang up, then I would be more willing to answer the phone. But because I know it's gonna take too long, it's gonna take so long to talk to this person. And it's not because I don't love him, it's not because I don't think he's important, it's just genuinely because I don't have enough time to press into this every single time we chat to talk for an hour. And so because that's the way it is, we don't talk that much. And I think what Jesus is trying to say with us in prayer is that if you believe that you have to do the exact same thing, you won't press into prayer that much. But if you believe that it could be as short as you want it to be and that God still hears you, that would be more readily available to us to press into. It's so much easier. If we really believe what Jesus is saying, that we could just say, help me. God, help me. God, protect me. God, give me wisdom. God, bless them. God, I'm sorry. If we really believe that that was enough, that wasn't like lesser than, that he looks at all the prayers of the people and then he sees that and he's like, this is all you got to give me? This is it? Like, I'm not gonna listen to that. Like if we believe that he wasn't like that, which is what Jesus is saying, he's not like that, but we believe that he's just interested in any single word or any expression of prayer that we have, we would press into that more. And we wouldn't sit there and be like, well, it's got to be this long, drawn out thing. And that's what Jesus is trying to tell us. You do not have to have a long conversation with God for him to hear you. And this is why Paul would say you should pray without ceasing. It's not continue with one long run-on sentence of conversation with God. He's just like, you could just have this posture with him to where at any moment in your day, something good happens, you can say thank you. And he hears you and receives that. You're going through something difficult. You're walking into a tough meeting, or you get bad news, or something like, Lord, help me, Lord, protect them. Like when someone asks you to pray for them and you're like, I don't have 5 minutes to break this down with you and to hear the entire story. You can just literally Lord, I lift up that person to you. Like it's easier to pray without ceasing when it doesn't have to be an hour long or 15 minutes long. And that's what Paul's referencing. Just this constant ability to pop in and out of conversation with him. Now, some people, when I talk about this, say, what about persistence? Jesus says we got to persist in prayer. Like persistence matters, and I agree. Jesus does talk about persistence. We'll actually get to that a little bit later in this teaching series. Persistence in prayer is a good thing. He does tell us to persist in prayer. But Jesus does not say you have to persist in order to be heard. Persistence matters, but it's not that persistence opens his ears to you. And so that's very important, because to be honest, if you didn't think that he heard you, you would not be able to persist, because nobody persists in a conversation when the other person, you're not really sure if they hear you or not. If you're on the phone with somebody and you go, hello, and you get nothing. Hello? How long do you stay saying hello? 3 seconds? I don't know why I'm doing this. How long do you do that? Like 3 seconds, 5 seconds? If it's somebody you really care about and you're like getting some like the static, you might stay on a little bit longer. But if you don't think they hear you, you're gonna hang up. You're not gonna continue the conversation. You're not gonna continue to persist in that conversation. You hang up that phone and try again. Or you call somebody else who can hear you. And so persistence does matter, but persistence doesn't open the doorways of his ears to hear you. It actually is a space where like we can be persistent in prayer, because we know the short amount of prayer, the whatever we have to offer him, he hears those things. It's so much easier to persist when we know every single time I talk to you, you hear me. I can persist in talking to people who hear me, and I won't persist in talking to people who don't hear me. And so persistence doesn't open the doorways to his ears to hear you, but it is a good thing. But he's not saying that you need that in order for him to actually listen to you. Short prayers are things that Jesus is saying, look, he loves you so much. You have so much access to him. You do not need to try and motivate him to hear you. He hears you. Bruner again says that much prayer is not the mediator to God. Much prayer does not get you access to God. Jesus does. And so because Jesus is the mediator and not the strength of your prayer or the length of your prayer, it has nothing to do with that. And so Jesus is just taking your shortened words or your whatever you have prayer, that just a groan to heaven, like life is terrible right now, and that's what you're saying. Jesus takes that thing before the Father. Not how strong the prayer is, not how much you can motivate yourself, not how much you feel about praying. You're like, I don't really feel like praying. It's like, that doesn't make him go like, well, if you don't feel like praying, I don't feel like listening. He doesn't respond that way. He's willing and ready to listen. All right, that's the second thing. Your prayers can be as short as you want them to be. Third, Jesus says, and what he's teaching is that God the Father knows how to help you the most. This is the third thing that he's communicating. He knows how to help you the most. In verse 8, this is how it reads. Your Father knows what you need before you ask him. Your Father knows what you need before you ask him. Now, most people hear this and they go, then why pray? If he knows what I need before I ask him, why should I even pray? And I get that. But what you're missing is the truth and the awesome truth that Jesus is actually trying to communicate through this, because all of us, to a person, all of us know that the people who know us best, who already know what we're going through, who already know what we need, the people who know what we need and know how to help us, those are the people we love talking to the most. We love talking to people that understand us deeply, That like when we're talking to them, they know what we need. We hate talking to people. We're trying to explain our situation, and they're just like, oh, I totally know what you're talking about. And you either start talking about their story, or they start trying to give you advice, and they actually don't know what you're going through. We hate talking to people like that. It's like, thank you so much for the advice. That's terrible. I'm not going to do any of that. Or I've heard that a billion times. That doesn't help. But people who listen and understand what we're going through, that actually know how to help us, we love talking to those people. My sister, after her husband died in the line of duty, she had a hard time talking to people about what she was going through. And maybe you've experienced this too, but what she found was like, she couldn't find anyone that understood her. Like, she couldn't find someone that understood the loss and the pain and just the ache that she felt. She had so many people, me included, who did not fully understand her and what she was going through. She had so many people who loved her, but she just could not find a single person that like, I understand exactly what you're going through. And then she went to this conference a couple of years after the loss, and she entered this room, and the conference was just for women who have lost loved ones in the line of duty. And so she enters into this conference space where she is surrounded by people that have literally walked in her shoes, have actually been there and been there longer than she has been there. And she was finally in a place where the people knew, because they had been there, because they understood her deeply, they knew what she needed. And because they knew what she needed, they were actually able to offer her help. And she loved those people. Like she goes to that conference, she's still friends with these people, and it's because they know what she needs. Before she walks in the room, and as she walks in the room, they all know everybody's here for one reason. They knew what she needed before she ever had to share her story. And she loved that environment because we love the people that know us. We love talking to people that understand us. And because they knew what she needed, they were actually able to help her. Before, she's talking to me or she's talking to my other family members and going, we're asking, how can we help you? We're asking her. We're putting the burden on her. How can I help you? How can we help you? And her answer was, I don't know. I've never been here before. I don't know how to, I wish someone knew what I needed. That's what she was saying. I wish someone knew what I needed. I wish someone knew what I needed before I asked, because no one can help me because nobody knows what I need. And what Jesus is saying is like, that's what he's like. He already knows what you need before you ask him. So it should never lead you to be like, so why pray? It's like, those are the people we love to talk to. Those are the people we love to spend time with. We hate going to doctor after doctor after doctor, and they go, I don't really know how to help you. It's like, great, then why am I here? And why am I paying for this? But finally, when somebody actually is able to look into our lives and look into our diagnosis and give us one and go, here's what you need, it's like, I love that person. I love spending time with that person. And that's what Jesus is trying to communicate. He is saying about God, he knows you, he understands you more deeply than you understand yourself, and he knows what you need. And because he knows what you need, he's actually able to provide the help that you long for and desire. He knows what you need, and therefore he knows how to actually help you. And because he has all that, knows what you need, is able to help you, and he has promised to actually meet our needs, we can be confident that when we go to him, that he is going to supply the things that we actually need. And so this text is supposed to lead us into, oh, thank God, you're the person who knows me the most. You're the person who knows what I need, even when I don't actually know what to pray for. I don't actually know what I need. You know that. And so I can go to you and just go like, just give me what I need. I'm not even sure what that is, but God, please give me what I need because you know and I don't know. It's the exact same way my sister was going up to people and be like, would you please comfort me? Will someone comfort me? Can someone hit this ache in my heart and soothe it? Can anybody do it? And everybody around her was going, we don't know how to help you because we don't know what you need. And she's like, I don't either, until she found people that knew what she needed. And so Jesus is saying about the Father, like, that's who he is. He has promised to fulfill your needs and to actually meet those needs. And he knows how to help you because he knows what they are. This is why later, we'll get to this later, but this is why later Jesus says, like in the prayer, he's like, pray, ask, Lord, give me this day our daily bread. And it's like super vague. Like, I don't actually need bread. It's just super vague prayer for our needs. And Jesus is like, be as vague as you want. You can be as specific as you want. You can talk about like, use it as daily bread as a metaphor and be like, I need my daily bread. I need a little bit of money here. I need some time here. I need some strength here. You can be as specific as you want, or you can be as vague and as short as you want and just go, God, I don't know what my needs are today, but you do. Would you give me my daily needs? And Jesus is like, that's plenty. He will take that and run with it. He does want you to ask, because he's never going to force his way or will into your life, because that would make him a tyrant and not a loving father. He does want you to ask, but he's like, but you can be super vague and be like, I'd like some daily bread. Do you actually want some food? No, but he knows what I need. And so I can just tell him, like, please meet my needs today. Please meet their needs today. You can ask him who loves you the most to give you what you need, because he knows what you need. And because he knows what you need, he knows how to actually help you. And he has promised to actually step into your situation and provide that help that you need, because he will provide for your needs. And so this is supposed to be this wonderful thing that Jesus kind of closes this section out before he moves into the prayer. It's supposed to be this thing that gives us some peace and some rest to be like, you are going to talk to a person that knows you better than you know yourself, who knows what you need better than you know yourself, and you can be assured that he will actually fulfill your needs. You should rest in this place of prayer, knowing that you're talking to a person that can actually help. And so those are the things that he wants us to know about the space of prayer. He wants it to be this thing that you run into, not something you run away from, because it's like, it's got to be so long. I don't have time for that. Like, no, it can be very short. I don't even know if he hears me. Like, I don't even know is he even there? He's like, he is there, but he is there in secret. But he constantly watches the secret place. He watches the space where you're intentional with him. If you take a moment just to pause and say, God, I want to read this book with you. I want to read this text to you that's making me anxious. Just whatever that is, it's like in that intentional space, he gives his attention to that space. And then he wants you to know that he actually knows you. He knows how to help you. And so those are the things that Jesus wants us to know. And so a couple of applications before we close. For you, I genuinely, if you're not a part of our church community, obviously we're thankful that you're here, and please continue to join us. But if you're like, this is my church home, this is the church that I call home, I really I would love to get to a space in this church where it's like, I'm 10 years into learning how to pray, and I love to do it. And it's not a brag. I hated to do it before, I already told you that. But I love to I believe this stuff is true. I've experienced these things to be true. And I would love to get in a space in your life where you're like, man, 2026 happened, we did this teaching series, and now 10 years later, hopefully it's maybe, I'm a little thick, and so maybe you guys can get it, faster than I did. But a year down the road, 2 years down the road, you're like, I know how to pray. And so if you're a part of our community, I would love to have, I want you to read the scriptures too, because I don't think you learn how to pray unless you don't learn how to talk until you've been spoken to. That's how babies learn. And so we are spoken to in his word, and we speak back in prayer. And so I want you to learn how to pray. And so these applications are specifically for you, but anybody can take them. But first, choose to intentionally talk to him. Figure out a space. It can be a literal space. I've told you guys, I have a literal space. This is the room that I pray. I don't always pray there, but I have a space where I have a gym where I work out. I have a kitchen where I cook food. I have a table I sit at to eat. I have a chair to sit in, and while I read, I have a bed where I sleep. I have intentional spaces for the stuff that I do, and I wanted an intentional space to be if I sit in this chair, God, I'm coming to sit in this chair and meet with you. And so I do think it can be a literal space, but it can also just be a point in time in your car where you have a buzz go off on your phone. I want to spend 60 seconds. I want to spend 5 seconds. I want to spend 1 second just turning my attention to him. And so find a space, choose. He gives his literal attention and presence to the space of intention. And so choose intentionally to be with him, to talk to him. Find a space and intentionally seek to be with him. It can be a closed door. It can be whatever. It can be hands over your face. It can be eyes closed. It doesn't matter. Just give him something. It says that he is constantly rushing to watch that space and to meet you there. And so choose to intentionally talk to him. Second, just pray what you've got. Pray what you have. Go to the next one. Pray what you got. There we go. Pray what you got. He does not care about the length of your prayer. He doesn't care how ready you are to pray. He doesn't care how much you feel like praying. He doesn't care how much you sinned just before. He cares about those things, but he doesn't care about that. Doesn't make him open his ears to you. So you can just pray what you have. What are you feeling right now? What do you have? I don't have 10 minutes to offer him. Do you have one word to offer him? Just pray what you got. You do not have to babble on like the pagans. You don't have to try and muster him to wake him up to get his ear. You can just pray as short as you want. He loves you as a father. And as a loving father is attentive to their kids, he is attentive to you, regardless of how long your prayer is. You have to break this idea that he's hard to get a hold of. He isn't. And Jesus is trying to tell them that. So pray what you got. And then third, you need to remind yourself that he's able to help you because he knows what you need. Remind yourself. You have to live inside this reality, constantly being reminded, he has promised to meet my needs. He knows what I need. And so because he knows what I need, he can help me. We have to live inside that truth. Otherwise, it's going to be very difficult to step into prayer. If we're what's he going to do? What is praying actually going to do? It's Jesus is saying, he knows how to help you because he knows what you need. It will do a lot. And so we have to remind ourselves of who he is and what he's like. You don't have to say the right words. You don't have to stir him to action. You don't have to do any of those things. You just get to press in to praying, knowing that he knows exactly what you need. And so those three things, I want you to choose those things, pray what you have regardless of time and length, and just remind yourself of the reality of who he is. He is a God who knows you the best, knows what you need, and because he knows what you need, he can help you. So practice those things. People who pray will experience more from God and with God than the people who don't.